Good evening, dear friends. I've been telling you that the Quran contains pages from various ancient manuscripts. And these pages and verses often intermingle, so the order was not maintained. So if it had borrowed a verse from a manuscript and had borrowed a few verses from another manuscript, from another era, then what the writers of Quran did, they just mixed them up. So it becomes difficult for researchers to find which story are they talking about. And they have come up with this excuse of saying that the Quran was revealed in gradual order. And a character, a fictitious character, was created under the orders of Caliph al-Mansur by Ibn Ishaq, the earliest known biography of so-called prophet of Islam, Muhammad. Today I'm going to discuss two chapters of the Quran to prove that these two chapters, if you can decode them, they are referring to the oldest running Christian monastery in the world, the St. Catherine Monastery in the Sinai area. The Muslim scholars either failed to correlate the verses of the Quran with the story of St. Catherine Monastery, or they intentionally hid the truth. I believe there are many stories in the Quran which were borrowed from Christian fables or heretic gospels like St. Thomas' Gospel, Syriac Jesus infancy stories, infancy gospels, and as I said, which were considered heretic by the mainstream Christianity. So let's go. Let's start with Surah number 95. Let's go there. Surah number 95, share screen. It says, by the fig and olive, and here is bracket is Jerusalem. That's fine, because this is referring to a place in Jerusalem because it is abundant there. Wattine was Zaitune, Watture Sinin. Here referring to Mount Sinai, and the word is Sinin. Sinin is Hebrew. And again, it says, Haza, that means this is the one, Hazal Baladil Amin. That means it's secure, it's protected, or people feel safe here. Or Hazal Baladil Amin. Balad, this word Balad is Indo-European, Latin. You know, Greek and Latin are of Indo-European origin. But here the translator is trying to say that this is Mecca, which is not true. I don't agree. The word Mecca is not there. And there's no reason why Mecca should be considered a secure place ever. Because there's no clear verse in the Quran which says that Mecca is a secure city. Then again, it says, Laqad khalaqnal insana fi ahsani taqweem. This is the rest of the surah is not very important, but it's a small surah. And it says, is Allah the most just of all judges? And people are instructed to await judgment. But mark the style that begins with, by the fig. Wattine was Zaitune wa Turisin. Wa. So let's go to the next surah, which is relevant for the discussion. which is Surah 52. Let's go for Surah 52. Okay, let's go. Surah 52. Here, for your discussion, I will, or for your understanding, sorry, I'll read the surahs first and then try to explain this. Okay, let's go. I'm trying to refer you to the websites for if it should be easier for you to understand anyway. Surah number 52 here. There are 49 verses in this surah or chapter. Share the screen. Here. Mark again. Watur. Here the style is the same. Wa, tur. In the previous surah, you also read the word tur. Yeah, the mount. Mount Tur. Wattine Zaituna Tur Sinin, the other one, the previous one, 95. And here again, by Mount Tur. The style, the beginning of the surahs are the same. But here is the word. Here. Mastura. Here, by the book, by the written book. Mastura. Here the word is Mastura. And again, if you go and open pages, the pages are open. The scrolls are open rather. The page is open. And again, here. And the house, which is frequented. The house, Baitul Mamur. Baitul Mamur. People are trying to say, Islamic scholars trying to say, this Baitul Mamur refers to a house in heaven directly above Kaaba. And there are other explanations as well, but I don't agree with any of them because the meaning of Baitul Mamur is a place, a house where people visit frequently. Where people visit frequently. Remember these things, for it will be better for our understanding. Now let's go. The word, and let's talk about St. Catherine's Monastery. Easiest way is opening the wiki page. There you go, Wikipedia. Here, St. Catherine's Monastery. St. Catherine's Monastery, officially Sacred Autonomous Royal Monastery, St. Catherine, Holy Trodden, is an Eastern Orthodox monastery located in Sinai Peninsula. It lies in the mouth of Gor, the foot of Mount Sinai, near the town of St. Catherine in Egypt. The monastery is named after Catherine of Alexandria. Right. What is the significance? Let's talk about the tradition first. During Catherine's imprisonment, more than 200 people came to see her, including Maxentius, his wife, Valeria Maximilia, all converted to Christianity, were subsequently martyred. The furious emperor condemned Catherine to death on a spiked breaking wheel, but at the touch of it shattered. Maxentius ordered her to be beheaded. Catherine herself ordered the execution to commence. And also, according to legend, a milkshake substance, rather the blood, flowed from her neck here. So it was something magical happened. And obviously, Maxentius thought that she was a witch, or this is sort of magic or something. But obviously, Christian understanding is it was a miracle of God. Then the monastery was built around the location which is traditionally considered to be a place of burning bush for Moses. Although it is commonly known that St. Catherine's Monastery official name is Sacred Autonomous Royal Monastery, blah, blah, blah. And here, other things are important as well. It was established in 565 AD. The claimed year of birth from Islamic prophet is 570, which is 5 years from the time of this church being built or monastery being built. Again, there are stories that Muhammad had an agreement with the priests of the monastery that they will remain safe. It is called Astana Muhammad, but the authenticity of it is questioned, at least from the paintings around it. All these drawings make it questionable. It was never carbon dated, but most likely it was done during the Ottoman Empire's time in the 16th century. But nevertheless, this was never verified scientifically. But this monastery contains world's oldest running library. That is the most important. But before I go there, let's go back to that surah number 52. Let's go to surah number 52 again, because I want to point to a certain verse there. So let's go back here. It's not a very long surah, but I'm trying to point to the relevant verse. Here, these are the important ayahs or verses. Those who amuse themselves with falsehood, then woe to the on that day for deniers. And again, if you go down, then it says, is this magic? Do you not see? Is this magic? Allah is going to punish them and say, is this magic? Why is God saying, is this magic? Because they, in the story of St. Catherine, they thought what happened to St. Catherine was magic. It was not a miracle. So in the same surah, surah 52, verse 15, God will be asking them, is this magic now? You're being punished with fire. Is this magic now? And they will say, obviously, no. And if you read the end of the chapter, you will see here, the day their scheming will be of no benefit to them whatsoever, nor will they be helped. Also, the wrongdoers will certainly have another torment before, but most of them do not know. There should be no shred of doubt. This is referring to St. Catherine for various reasons, as I told you at the beginning of the surah. It is referring to not only the city, Balad al-Amin, the safe city, because St. Catherine's followers took shelter, because the Christian legend, Western records, I would say, followers of St. Catherine took refuge in this place because there were mountains all around and they felt safe here, and Christians were coming here very frequently as a place for pilgrimage. And also, don't forget these verses, as I told you here again, let me remind you, Surah 52, by the book written on the pages for all to read, right here, and sacred house frequently visited. Now we have more important things to discuss. Let's go for this one, which is Chapel of Ascension in Jerusalem. let's read about this. The Chapel of Ascension is a chapel or shrine located in Mount Olives, Zaitun, that is, in Attur district in Jerusalem. Wattine was Zaitune, Watture Sinin. Part of a longer complex consisting first a Christian church and monastery, Islamic mosque, is located at the site of faithful tradition believed to be the spot where Jesus ascended to heaven after his resurrection. Here. And again, this was done in the 9th century by the Mamluks, and it was turned into a mosque, but it was originally a Christian place of worship where Jesus allegedly ascended to heaven. Now, let's talk about the manuscripts in this chapter, in this monastery, the Monastery of St. Catherine. But before that, I must remind you that in the other surah, Surah 95, I told you the word was Hebrew for Mount Sinai. It read, Wattine was Zaitune Watture Sinin. Sinin is Hebrew. It's not Arabic. And if you read the other place of the Quran where the mount is mentioned, it is Sinai, not Sinin. So that is in Surah 23, verse 20. Surah 23, verse 20, it is referring to this mount as Mount Sinai, not Sinin, Sinai, the Syriac. And Moses is also mentioned there. Because it can't be referring to Quran for everybody to read. It is open, referring to a scroll which is open in this Catherine in Surah 52. It's referring to a book which is for all to read, and is referring to a city, a town, Balad, which is secure, and also is referring to God's punishment, which won't be magic, and their scheming won't be working anymore. It is also mentioning the words like olive, sinin, tur, teen, and all that. It's all referring to the Sinai area. Now, let's move on. Again, you will see, if you read into the miracles of Jesus in the Quran, one of the miracles that Jesus performed was speaking from the cradle when he was a baby. But this is not in the Bible. Where is it? This is in the Syriac Gospel, Syriac Infancy Gospel. This is not in the Bible, but Syriac Infancy Gospel. And you can also find similar stories in other Gospels, but not in the Bible. For example, you'll find it in Syriac version of the Bible. The oldest one is claimed to be of the 9th century. You can also refer to Infancy Gospel of Thomas. So you will find many similarities when it comes to Jesus' story from Syriac Infancy Gospel and Infancy Gospel of Thomas. Why are these important? Because because of this. I'll take you there. Share screen. A list of manuscripts in the St. Catherine's Monastery. Here, if you read this, the Sinai manuscripts comprise the oldest and the most important Christian monastic library collection. Of its 3,300 manuscripts, 2/3 are in Greek. The rest are principally in Arabic, Syriac, Gregorian, and Slavonic, though there are other manuscripts in Polish, Hebrew, Ethiopian, Armenian, Latin, Persian. But here, most of the manuscripts are Christian texts for use in the services and to inspire and guide the monks in the dedication, but others are educational nature. The most famous manuscript is the 4th century. Obviously, it's much before the time of so-called Prophet of Islam Muhammad. The most famous manuscript is the 4th century Codex Sinaiticus, of which the monastery retains 12 pages and some 24 fragments. Next importance is the Codex of Syriacus, a palimpsest, the upper writing dating AD 778, with underwriting dating to the perhaps 5th century. This is one of only 2 manuscripts in the world that preserve the text of old Syriac translation of Gospels. The monastery has some manuscripts written on papyrus, on here, scrolls open as you read in Surah 52. The monastery has some manuscripts written on papyrus and a large collection of Greek, Arabic, and Turkish scrolls. The ancient library of Sinai still exists in original context as the library of a living community. The association gives an added dimension to each manuscripts and early printed books as they witness to the life of prayer of services has been maintained here for over 17 centuries. So dear folks, I don't think there should be any doubt about it. Now, the influence of Syriac on Quranic languages, immense. There have been many researches on this, and you can even find easily available online sources instead of buying books like me. If you don't want to, share a screen. Here is a source as well. It's a good writing. Syriac influence on the style of the Quran by Reverend Alphonse Mingasa. He has given several examples, very well documented, about the influence of Syriac on Quranic language here. Many examples. You can read that as well. Right. So I don't think there should be any shred of doubt what is this story all about. But again, I will refer you to something else here. This is a scholar writing. It says the first translation of the Quran, 8th-9th century AD, in the use of anti-Islamic work of Nicetas Byzantium, 9th century, analysis of the Greek Quran fragments, and a competent commentary on Nicetas' refutation of the Quran. Now here, the researcher is trying to say that the earliest available fragments of Quranic translation into Greek language was probably done by someone who was not a Muslim, rather a Christian, because the translation breaks the traditional translation of the Quran and translates it into such a way that it appears to be akin to the Christian understanding of Jesus. So my dear friends, I have no doubt that this was the case. Then again, I told you that the word balad is Latin, Indo-European, and the first person to translate that into Latin was Robert O. Kitten in 1143. And he had named it Lex Mahmet Pseudo Prophet, pseudo-prophet, or the law of the false prophet Muhammad. And surprisingly, he will find it extremely difficult to find a complete Quran before the 11th century. So my dear friends, whatever translations you are reading of the Quran, forget the brackets. Try to correlate the Arabic words to simple understanding, and available historiographical analysis will help you. And if you're an expert in comparative religion, religious anthropology, history, and if you testify the available evidences with a neutral mind, you will have no doubt that Surah 95, bulk of it, and Surah 52, bulk of it, referring to the story of St. Catherine and St. Catherine's Monastery. Decoded. Quran